Hi. This is a question for both of you. Now, from a reader's perspective, the introduction of Windblade was really where we started to see the introduction of the colonies and like all of the female characters that are now in the IDW-verse, which is great. So my question sort of is, if originally Hasbro hadn't altered the poll so that people could vote on whether the toy was going to be a boy or a girl, would we still have seen the development of more female characters and of all of the colony worlds that we now have in the series?
That's a great question. Because, if I were my single biggest regret for my time editing on Transformers was not bringing female characters in earlier. James and I talked about it at one point, and we got kind of wrapped up in the continuity of the stuff, and I think we were wrong that we shouldn't have been thinking that way. In all honesty, Death of Optimus Prime, when all the people started coming back to Cybertron, we should have just had a bunch of female Transformers show up and just moved on from there. That's the biggest regret I have. So I wish we would have done it earlier. We were stupid not to. I don't think I understood the importance of it, and I do think it's important now very much. And I think I learned, I don't know, I just didn't, coming in, because I was kind of coming in from more outside of Transformers than some of the Transformers people. I mean, I've been a Transformers fan since issue 1 of the Marvel stuff came out, but I think I still had sort of an old mentality to it. That was definitely an unexpected poll, because when we were talking Dark Cybertron, we knew there was going to be like a fan-voted character. Like James and I actually thought it was going to be, you were going to vote on an existing character, so it was like Huffer would get a toy or something, or whatever. So when it turned out they were building a character, and then it turned into Windblade, it was like, well, we got to do this, but this is. This is good. We've talked about doing this. This is great. And then once we did it, it's like, oh, this is so stupid. We didn't do this before. I think where we are now in the comics, I'm much happier. I think it much more reflects the world and the people who read the comics and who make the comics. I think that's really important, and hopefully the people who make the comics can continue to reflect the world even more. From what I know of some of the people coming in, I think it will. And I don't know, I'm excited. So I don't know if we would have dragged our heels more. I'm glad we didn't, and I wish we would have done it earlier. That's the best answer I have.
It's crazy how much the landscape has changed in 5 years, isn't it?
But it's also crazy that you look at it now, and it's like you're like, it's so stupid.
Yes.
This isn't like it.
I think that's
so
what I mean.
smooth.
It's like, it's nice to think that like that's where
this could have been 5 years ago. Why didn't we? Stupid.
I think like I'd ask like readers as well to kind of be patient with the introduction of female characters, because of, I guess, the fact that there's almost 30 years worth of just male characters there who've kind of got, I guess, their own story plates spinning, that it's going to take a while to kind of, I guess, unless you assign unless you sort of gender swap some of those characters, to sort of like move them off the stage to bring in a more representative kind of cast list. So we need more female characters, but that means a lot of the male characters are going to have to get the chop. That's okay, but it's I guess it's trying to do it in a sort of smooth sort of way, and it's totally doable and possible. It's just going to take a little while, I guess, for the parity to sort of like match the real world. To be like sort of we're doing better. And we want to do more better. But someone is asking me about that, about putting RC and Sins of the Wreckers, and it's like, well, it kind of made sense with the story because I want the Prowl involved and the Cup is going to be in it and stuff like that. But also, Verity can't carry the whole thing, like in that way. It was kind of, and just even as an artist, just for something different to draw, like it's kind of, it's nice.
It is easy to fall into a trap, though, of being like, okay, well, I'm going to keep using the main characters people like, and that's Optimus, and that's Jazz, and that's whoever, and to forget, well, no, that is perpetuating the problem, and there is like, we're not trying to like, I don't know, shove anybody down anybody's throat, I guess, but like when Victorion comes on, I'm like, well, no, Pyra can be a top-level major character, and she's going to be a jerk because I'm writing her, and everybody I write is a jerk. But she's a good jerk, I like her.
She is,
she's right, like she is correct in most of what she says, in my opinion.
She's your Tony Stark.
Wow, I don't know, that's weird.
Compared to your Optimus Prime's Cap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean,
I don't know. Maybe I'd swap those.
If you look at things in terms of Mark Millar, and I know you do.
I do. Yeah. So I mean, I think it's something that, like, as a writer, I had to become conscious of. As an editor, I had to become conscious of. And it's, I mean, like I said, I think it was a mistake to not do it earlier.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your answer, and can I say I'm really glad that after Windblade came out, you didn't then just shove her and the whole idea back under the rug.
Oh yeah, no, that was never the case. I mean, the one thing we wanted to avoid, and this is actually true, that this is the one thing I talked about, where there was there's this comic called Legion of Superheroes. And it started out in the Superboy comic, and it was these teenagers from the future that really liked Superboy, and they came back and they met Superboy. And then it kind of grew into this whole thing where there's all these like Legion of Superheroes, and they lived in the 30th century, and they were all white, and because this is the 1950s or whatever, and it's American comics, and they were so at some point in the 70s they were like, whoa, that's not accurate. Well, so all the African American, all black people had to move. They must have moved to a planet. So there's a planet of black people that shows up, and that's horrible. like that. That was the thing I wanted to avoid. That was the reason we didn't come back and have Caminus be like all female. Yeah. Was that makes that an other, and that makes Cybertronians normal and the Camians weird. So what Marguerite and I mean, like we talked about this a lot, and what I thought was important that we came up with was that Cybertron was the weird one. Cybertron was the one where it was weird, where there were only guys. The normal thing is normal. So that was like a thing we wanted to make, that not make anybody, like, to very hard veer away from making female the other, which is what I think had happened with RC. Unintentionally. I don't think that was not Simon's intention. That was what happened.
It's agreed it's a misstep. But it was never. It just came from. Yeah, it was just misinformed, I think, or kind of like.
Well, it's also Simon has I think like you, most of us in this room can't hear Optimus Prime and not hear, Peter Cullen's voice, right? I bet Simon can. He was writing this before. He wasn't a kid when he was writing that stuff. So I think to him, the idea that their gender.
Yeah.
Operates in a different way, makes sense in a way that it kind of doesn't for us, because it's Peter Cullen. You know what I mean? No matter what we can say about it. I don't know. Now we're getting really
exactly.
Fuck up and say something bad about Simon.
No, it's thanks. I guess thanks for everyone's patience.
Screw up. Sorry, I apologize.
And thanks for your patience, and thanks for sticking with us when maybe there's been missteps that were unintentional, and so.
Thank you again.
Oh, thank you.